Hello and welcome back to PLCW Extra, where this time we're reviewing the Tuscan Grand Prix 2020. This is the inaugural Tuscan Grand Prix held in the Mugello circuit. And this Mugello circuit is owned by Ferrari, and it truly was a thrilling race. Two thrilling races in 2 weeks. What a race. Roll titles.
Yes, that's right. This is indeed the inaugural Tuscan Grand Prix at Mugello, owned by Ferrari, and I would agree with the It really is an amazing looking circuit. Quite hard, quite a fast circuit through some of the corners, and we'll really have to see how some of those tyres hold up for some of the cars. We'll be discussing that later, but let's start then with some previous results. Abay.
Yes, thank you. This is the Monza. This is in Monza. Yeah, this is the Grand Prix in Monza, where Pierre Gasly won, Carlos Sainz came in second, and Lance Stroll came in third, with Lando Norris finished fourth, and Valtteri Bottas was the highest Mercedes, a pretty low fifth. And that was a shock Grand Prix, guys. I think that's all we've got to say. Check out our video on the Monza Grand Prix.
Surprised Hamilton come in the top two.
Yeah, I mean, he had the penalty. That's
Yeah.
Indeed, but also I think the key thing to note here was the double DNF for Ferrari for the first time since 1994, and just in general for quite annoying DNFs. I mean, we're still yet to find out fully why Verstappen had to retire. We know it was the technical issues with the car. We don't know. We hope that it had it sorted out before.
Guys, Aaron, it was the power unit. They disclosed
it. Was the power unit. The power unit. So we'll have to hope that was fixed in time for Mugello. But before we look forward to that, let's have a look at some results from the qualifying. So it was a pretty ordinary qualifying to some extent, although I do think that
Gasly in 16th.
Yeah.
Not in the top 10.
I mean, and Alex Albon in fourth is not a bad for him either. I think that's quite worthy of note.
Charles Leclerc, fifth.
Charles Leclerc, yeah. What do we think of Albon then coming in fourth?
He's got to do well on this race, and I think it's not just this race. He's got to do well until the end of the season, unless Pierre Gasly is going to have to go to Red Bull if he does not do brilliantly in the next few races. And that said, they could sign Checo Perez or Nico Hülkenberg. Both of them have got enormous pedigree in the sport, and I think either one of the three will be brilliant for Red Bull if Albon doesn't perform. But if Albon does perform, then he obviously has the right to keep a seat.
Indeed.
Yeah, Albon's a good racer, but he needs to.
Indeed. I think to some extent it was a pretty generic qualifying session, but I think Albon can be quite happy with the fourth. Yeah. And then we'll take a look at Mugello, the track that both, I think all of us could agree, is one of the most amazing on the circuit. I mean, I think it's good that it's coming back, come for the first time onto the F1 Tour. Through all of those bends, through all of those corners, there is a lot of speed that will be built up by the drivers. Through 15 corners, it is an amazing circuit. And it really is, as I say, quite fast through some of those turns. So the drivers will need to be careful there. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think they go flat out through turn 7, which is quite interesting in qualifying. They were going straight flat out through there, and I think it's interesting. Varun, do you have any opinions?
It's an interesting track. Probably one of my favourite tracks.
Yeah.
I mean, and looking forward towards the top right image with the DRS zones, we have the speed trap coming through just after the DRS. It would be quite interesting to have a look at there. I think it will be interesting that although it's quite a long and fast circuit, we only have one proper DRS zone, so it will be hard for them to try and keep down the speed on some of those corners and straights.
It's very long. It's a 1 mile. No, not 1 mile. It's a 1 kilometer straight. So they will get huge expanses of speed over that 1 kilometre.
It will, particularly then as they come through the speed trap, coming back down through the turns, and then trying to level it out back after. That it will be quite interesting to see how some of the drivers cope with that, particularly some of the lower cars. I think it will be good to see, particularly I would say through a sort of region of 9 to 15. That will be quite an interesting thing to have a look at and see how some of the drivers do cope, because you've got the short straights between 9, 10, 10, 11 and so on, 14, 15, but then they are met with this very sudden and sharp turn, so they will need to bring the speed down early and not get too carried away. And then as we have a look forward to the tyre choices, Pirelli have selected C1, C2 and C3 as opposed to the 2, 3 and 4 that we saw last time out. 0.9 seconds per lap slower down from the soft to the medium, and 1.6 down again to the hard. I think that's quite an interesting choice for Pirelli, bringing in the C1, but I think that could be quite useful with some of the hard corners. Would any of you agree with that?
Yeah.
And I've just got to, because Pirelli probably do their planning ahead. They look at the temperatures. The temperatures are hot, so you're going to get a lot of tyre wear, tyre degradation. So probably your best bet is to go with the hardest tyres available.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And as we say, particularly with the speed and the corners that can be built up at Mugello, it's definitely worth going for some of the harder compounds. And then as we look for the drivers' selections of tyres, we see the entirety of the top 11 opting for the soft, with only 5 drivers, Kvyat, Raikkonen, Grosjean, Russell and Latifi, going for the medium compound and no one on the hard. Would you agree with some of their decisions, and what would you select?
Can I just clear something up? The top 11 don't opt to go with the soft. The top 10 have to go with the soft because they get their race tyres they get from Q2. And then the rest of the field down, they opt. Listen, I think Norris wants to go on the soft, try and get that track position early. Good on the start. I think Kvyat, Raikkonen maybe just trying to push into the points by taking that long first stint and then doing an overcut around Mugello. There's some areas where you can get round, but I think that's good for Kvyat because the AlphaTauri is good in the straight line speed, but not for Raikkonen.
It is. And what do we think about Magnussen on the soft compound?
Again, what I'm saying, track position, and maybe we'll just see that the undercut from Magnussen actually.
Hopefully. And like you say, maybe not they have to opt for, but they are driving on those, the top 10. Do you think that that's the right position for them? Do you think that that's where they would want to be? Or should want to be?
I think it's good. I think everyone in the top 10 will be pleased with where they come, but most of all Leclerc.
Indeed.
Yeah. Definitely.
And then moving on to the fun results and opinions after the race has been run. We have a big batch of DNFs. There's only 12 drivers crossing the line in the end. Those DNFs are Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon, Nicholas Latifi, Kevin Magnussen, Giovinazzi, Max Verstappen and Pierre Gasly. If I can draw your attention for a moment to Max Verstappen, that's his second DNF in consecutive races.
Again, for any of those that didn't see us, again, another power issue problem. I think Pierre Gasly, he just got collected in that Max Verstappen incident. And
Indeed.
Raikkonen, I'm surprised he actually finished. He got collected in quite a lot of incidents. And that too, he got a points finish. So well done, Kimi.
Indeed. And just going back to Max Verstappen, you said it is another power issue. So where do we think we stand for the rest of the season with the Red Bull car?
They can easily just get another power unit, so it's not a big difference.
It's not a big difference, but for 2 consecutive races, they have had an issue with it.
Yeah, but now they're going to replace it because it was only minor from the last one, so they're going to replace it now. They won't get a good drop.
Fair enough.
Well, if it happens again, well, they haven't got much of a chance.
Issue. Yeah.
I think they might have a penalty if it happens another couple of times.
Yeah. And then, if I can draw your attention right way up then to the top of the table, your top 3 for the race: Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, and Alexander Albon. We were talking earlier about how Alex Albon needs to pick up some results, which is arguably very much so done here with a third finish.
Can I just
Well,
add a point?
a good racer.
Yeah, can I just add a point in about Alex Albon?
Yeah.
Maybe some people will see this as a bit controversial, but I think this hampers his chance, even though he got a podium, of being in the Red Bull seat next year. Because now we've finally seen, oh yeah, he's got the capacity to actually get the podium. Why doesn't he do that more often? Why didn't he pull out the outrageous overtakes we saw today? Why doesn't he do this more often? He's in the second best car on the grid, and why does he throw it away? So this just adds more pressure, if I'm honest with you. You may think of it as not much pressure because he's got a podium, but this shows he has potential to actually do it.
It definitely has.
Well, I mean, partly because there's 12 DNSs. There's 12 people that didn't finish.
Yeah.
Well, not 12 people.
8.
What am I doing? 8 people.
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from, Abay. It does put on more pressure. I don't think it makes it hard.
He'll be happy with it.
To retain a place. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Daniel Ricciardo came fourth. That's probably one of the best finishes he's had at a circuit like this for Red Bull. We're saying that's a good result for him. He won Driver of the Day, as we'll see later. You know, I think although it does certainly add pressure, I don't see how it could really detract his.
We'll be happy with it now, but if he starts going back to quite bad finishes.
The only reason I said that is because he has the capacity to do it. Now we know he has the capacity to do such outrageous overtakes. Why doesn't he do that more often? If he can do it,
maybe
I reckon that would have given a confidence boost, and he's going to come.
Exactly. Yeah, I would say that would have given a confidence boost. Perhaps it did add a bit of pressure, but perhaps it was the track that helped him to flourish. The cornering and speed of Mugello could have helped him in that respect, and he could then come forward with more confidence. I mean, we'll have to find that out. We'll have to find that out later. But I think it's definitely a good finish for him, particularly today. Moving down the table, Daniel Ricciardo with 4th. That's pretty good for him. He narrowly missed out on his first podium for Renault. That would be disappointing for him, although I do think the 4th was very good.
It might provide some respite for Cyril Abato, because there was a bet with him and Daniel Ricciardo that if Daniel Ricciardo gets a podium, that he would get a tattoo.
Just off.
And then Sergio Perez in 5th.
That's a good.
What do we think there? Good for him?
I think good for him, and he's leaving them, so maybe that'll boost his confidence for another drive next season. And he was without the upgrade that Racing Point have got, so that's good for him. Varun, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, good race for him, and not much more.
Yes. Lando Norris in 6th, taking home 8 points. I think he can be quite happy with that, particularly based on his qualifying position.
Yeah,
he's gained it's his usual position though. Usually comes 6th or 7th.
It is, but I think that's good for him being one of the younger drivers coming up at Renault.
Yeah, he's very consistent.
Good for him. Yeah. So. And then we have Daniel Kvyat for AlphaTauri. I mean, it's pretty generic for him, a 7th. Charles Leclerc in 8th. What do we think about that?
No.
It's good for Ferrari this season, but when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, Ferrari's 1000th Grand Prix, well done Ferrari. It's not a very good result when you put it that way.
No, it really isn't.
Ferrari, one of the big racing names in the world, coming.
Yeah.
Come a DNF. Did they DNF?
No. 10th and 8th.
Yeah, 10th and 8th. They're not even in the top 5. I would expect like a 4th and a 7th or something.
Yeah, fair
enough.
And plus it's on home ground.
Yeah. And then Abay, you said earlier about Kimi Räikkönen being a good result. Would you like to elaborate?
Kimi Räikkönen, he was actually leading at one point, but I think, no, not leading, he was actually more further up the field, and I think if it wasn't for his stupid mistake, he would have come, let's just work this out, he would have come 8th, he would have come ahead of Charles Leclerc. Because he dived into the pits too late, when there was a safety car due to the Lance Stroll crash. He had dived into the pits too late, and he didn't cross the white line. He just went over the curb, and that's what cost him a 5-second penalty, and that 5-second penalty would have put him ahead of the 2 Ferraris. I think job well done, Kimi.
Indeed. Vettel intense. I mean, how we say, based on the season Ferrari have had, I mean, that's a decent result. But like you say, in the grand scheme of things, for a team like Ferrari and a driver like Vettel, that's really not where he would have been looking to come.
No.
Would you agree with that, Bay?
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think there's much more to say now. We've pretty much covered every driver.
I'd say I'd agree with that as well.
Moving on.
Indeed.
Last point.
Oh,
2 red flags here. Big drama. I would heavily recommend you to watch the highlights of the race on Sky Sports or any other highlights you might find. I think F1 are going to put something on their YouTube later. And I thoroughly encourage you to watch that. It's a thrilling race, and I think that's all we've got here.
We encourage you to watch like most of the highlights just so you get what we're talking about.
Yeah,
and also, just before we go, driver of the day. Daniel Ricciardo won the official one through the polls after he narrowly missed out on his first podium in his Renault career, coming 4th to Alex Albon of Red Bull. Would we agree with that, or who else did we pick?
I would agree with that, but I'm going to go with the driver I've heavily praised today and go Kimi Räikkönen.
Yeah.
I would agree with Daniel Ricciardo being a very good choice for it. Would he have been the one I would have chosen? Probably not. I know, controversial opinion. I probably would have chosen Alex Albon because I think it's very good for him that he came 3rd at a track like Mugello. But I can see exactly why Daniel Ricciardo won it, so fair play. Let us know in the comments whether you agree with the official one of ours, or what you think. But for now, from us at PLTW, it is indeed goodbye, and we'll see you on the next video.
Yep, goodbye.
Bye.
More content on our main channel.
Indeed, link down in the description for that. Check that out, and we'll see you later. Goodbye.
Bye.